Everyone. I'm Debra Royal. I'm the Chief of Staff and Communications Director for Oregon's Secretary of State. On average, one Oregonian dies every 3 days due to the misuse of prescription opioids. Please take a moment to let that sink in. One Oregonian every 3 days. We're here today for these victims, their families and friends. Oregon has an opportunity to learn from the experiences of other states and follow the best practices being successfully implemented across the nation. So many families are being shattered by the opioid epidemic. We have to act with determination to stop it where we can. I'd like to tell you my family's story. 4 years ago, my nephew took a fatal mixture of drugs that included opioids. Alex was 29. He was the first grandchild in my family and was my dad, his grandfather's best friend. Alex was smart and talented. He was handsome and funny. He was our family's go-to guy when you ever had a problem with your plumbing. Alex was also an addict. In 1986, 2 months after he was born, my sister and my brother-in-law made the choice to put Alex in daycare so my sister could return to work. But Grandpa was old school and was having none of that. He was a tough guy, but such a softie when it came to his little ones. My dad had an extremely hard childhood. He grew up on the streets of Newark, New Jersey during the Depression. He was a combat medic in the Korean War. And for 35 years, he was a diesel mechanic working the graveyard shift, repairing Safeway's big rigs, tractor trailers. He was tough, but he didn't want Alex in daycare. So every morning after work, he would pick Alex up at 7 a.m. and deliver him home at 6 p.m. Those 6 years that he was Alex's caregiver, my dad slept an average of 4 hours a night. My mom would tell me how tired he would be when he left for work each night at 10:30 p.m. She was especially worried about him during the winters. He spent many frigid nights going out on road calls to repair 18-wheelers that had broken down on the shoulders of some of the busiest highways in America. It was dangerous and exhausting work. But when the sun came up, he would be with Alex. He would be at a petting zoo, he would be building birdhouses, or he'd be fishing in the same pond where he taught my sister and me how to fish when we were little. Fast forward to another frigid night in January of 2015. My dad, then 84 years old and long since retired, stopped by Alex's apartment to retrieve a tool Alex had borrowed earlier in the week. My dad walked past Alex's car and noticed the tool in the back seat. The car was unlocked, so he opened the door and took the tool. Alex's kitchen light was on in his apartment, but it was cold and it was late, and my dad was a little bit angry that Alex had left an expensive tool in an unlocked car. So instead of going to Alex's apartment, he went home and called him in the morning. There was no answer, so he left a voicemail. Alex didn't return the call. He wasn't returning anyone's calls. So the following morning, my sister and my brother-in-law went to check on him. They found him on his kitchen floor. He was dead. The coroner placed the time of death somewhere around the time my dad was standing in the parking lot looking up at Alex's kitchen window. My dad was an Army medic. He knew how to save lives. He knew what to do to keep Alex alive until the EMTs arrived. What he didn't know, the time Alex would need him the most would be the time my dad said, "I'm too tired." These are the types of untold stories that haunt the families of this opioid nightmare. The what-ifs, the if-onlys. My dad still tortures himself. What if I hadn't been cold? What if I hadn't been tired? I spent my life being cold and tired. Why was tonight any different? I only If only I hadn't been angry, maybe I could have saved him. There are far too many families in Oregon and across this country who understand exactly what I'm talking about. They suffer along with their loved one while they're alive, but their suffering doesn't end. Guilt, loneliness, sorrow replace the space where the loved one used to be. My dad would have done anything to save Alex. So today, you will hear about things we can do to save more of our fellow Oregonians from this dreadful epidemic. This audit outlines concrete solutions to help reduce the heartbreaking devastation of the opioid crisis. It's too late for Alex, but it's not too late for many others. We have a moral imperative to take action. Next, you'll hear from our audit director, Kit Mehmet.